What's going on, everybody? Mike here. If you'd like to join the ever-growing Fly Casual community, please take a moment right now to subscribe to our channel and share with a friend.
Anyway, I enjoy that movie so much more now.
I know. It's time to talk about that movie right now.
Oh, yeah. Talking about bridges.
Is it better than Star Wars?
You've actually given me one reason to like this movie now.
Is it
Oh, no. Spoiler how he hates it.
better than Star Wars?
Okay, right off the bat. Okay, so we're doing this thing.
Oh, here we go.
And
Gauntlet thrown on.
and I go to pull up the movie a couple days ago.
Y'all should have checked
Yes.
your AFI list when Garrick first
And
pitched
no
this.
one
No,
warned me.
No one warned me
This is
either.
almost a 3 freaking hour movie.
Oh my god.
Oh, really?
you should know. You should know
The decade that brought you the Ten
I don't-
Commandments and Ben-Hur didn't clue you in.
Well, I've never watched those
I'm surprised
You
it
never
doesn't have an
seen the Ten
intermission.
Commandments? Who
because
raised you?
I'm not an idiot.
You're a PK, which means you should have
No.
the Ten Commandments
My-
ground into your face.
No, because they were like, this is Hollywood crap, and we're not going to watch this.
But Charlton
I'm
Heston
more-
is in the NRA.
Jesus likes me more than you.
I guess that could
Oh,
be.
snap.
Because I didn't watch.
You're not
this.
saying much, though.
That's true. But man, did it put me to sleep.
Oh, like
Man,
this is how he's Akira.
This is literally.
It's Howie's Akira. Or was Akira Howie's Akira? Because I feel like Akira could be a lot of people's Akira.
This should have been an hour and 45 minutes long.
You didn't like all the
it could
traveling
have been
scenes?
Couldn't have done it.
easily
Couldn't
in
have
an
done it.
hour 45
Yes.
minute movie.
No
yes.
way.
Oh, see, it's a slow burn.
Yeah.
They have to
It's not
slow
worth it.
something.
All right. So
Piece
who
of
wants
shit
to,
is
who
what
wants
it
to give a
is.
synopsis here before we dive in and
I'm
dive?
actually.
Okay, so
I'm being over dramatic.
Obi-Wan gets drafted in the British Army, okay?
That would be Alec Guinness or Alec, yes.
And
I'm
he's,
like, oh, cool.
But
I've never heard Obi-Wan in any other movies before. This is kind of cool.
I've seen him in Dr. Zhivago, directed by the same dude.
Well, good for you.
Either way, I want to point out, just before we go really into it,
I know what he's going to
the
say.
first thing when I started up this movie and Alec Guinness starts talking,
Yes.
I learned, because it's been a long time since I've seen any of these, like
Yes.
any of Alec Guinness's earlier work.
Okay.
Young Alec Guinness sounds exactly like Ewan McGregor doing an
He
Alec
does.
Guinness.
He
I
kinda
mean,
does.
I half waited for him to pop out of a
Hello there.
Apollo.
Hello
Hello there. Like exactly. Ewan McGregor has like
You've got to
exactly.
you've got to give Ewan McGregor some props for really studying that accent, man.
Yeah, you probably watched this movie.
That's what I'm thinking. Like this had to be his source material because that's the pitch that he's
Yes,
at too.
he sure, yeah, it is.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Anyway, Garrick, do you want to do the synopsis? You want me to do the?
Sure.
Okay.
Oh,
So
jeez.
backing up, we're doing the AFI. Is it better than Star Wars?
Is
Yes.
it better than?
Please don't do a frame by frame synopsis.
This is number 13 on the AFI.
Again,
This
we've
is
already
2
done-
slots better than the
Star Wars
movie
was 15,
Star
right?
Wars.
Yep. Two.
We've
Yeah, Star
done
Wars is
14, which was
Something like a hot.
Something like a hot.
Something
Now
like that,
we're
which
at
we did.
okay,
Are we all
Ridge,
shut up now?
Ridge on River Kwai. All right.
I was just like, I want to get this freaking fart over with.
This movie came out in 1950.
Thank you.
59, I believe.
54.
This movie came out November 12th, 1955.
Release date October 2nd, 1957.
Do you
57,
remember
you're right. 57.
the 5th of November?
Yes. Yes, I do.
I was hanging a
Never
clock.
forget. I'll never forget.
Yeah.
This is based off a book
I'm going to troll this whole time.
called a French book called Le Pont de la Rivière Kwai.
And what does that translate to
The
in
bridge
the English
over the River
release?
Kwai.
The
The
bridge
bridge over the
Over. So
the River
strike
Kwai.
one.
So when I got the title wrong, I was
You're like,
actually
I can't find it.
I was actually right from a snottier point of view.
Yeah.
From a certain point of view.
So basically, the synopsis
my
of
Alec
the
Guinness
story is that
impersonation.
a battalion of
It's the best
British
ever.
troops are captured, or they give up, and they're then summarily captured by the Japanese and taken to a work camp where they are tasked to build a bridge over a river
Called
Kwai.
to complete a railroad system
KWAI.
This is
through
in Burma.
Burma.
Yes.
Mhm.
And so far,
Near
the
Thailand.
Japanese
And then it was
captors have been
Siam.
unsuccessful and getting the troops they currently have motivated to build this bridge.
Wait, was it called Burma at the time? Because now it's Myanmar.
Yeah.
Or was it?
It
Was it?
Burma.
It was Burma.
It was
then,
Burma
and it's
then. When did it
Myanmar now.
cease to be Siam and become Burma?
Oh, jeez,
I can't keep this country.
questions.
This country. What are you
Somebody-
doing?
They didn't cover that. In
It really doesn't
3 hours
matter.
this
We
movie
need to get this
took.
over with.
No, there were 3 hours to give me the history of the name of the country, and they did not even bother.
Yeah,
That's
there's
how
ball
awful
drop
this
number
movie
one.
is.
Yeah, so
They
this
got the name
battalion's-
wrong. They didn't get the country right.
Howie's cough syrup is going full blast.
So the British battalion is commanded by Alec Guinness.
Yep, the real Alec
Yeah.
Guinness.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, the one and only.
This is based on a true story, guys.
Colonel Alec
yeah,
Guinness.
aka Commander
Colonel
no,
Nicholson.
Lieutenant Colonel.
This is not based on a true story. at all.
Colonel
It
Oh,
is
Nicholson.
loosely on a true story.
So he-
Not from
he,
what I read.
Very
forced-
loosely.
Very
If
loosely.
you want to
It's
say
fiction.
loosely, you got to really say loosely. Like, yeah, they built a bridge.
There was a world. There
There
was
you
a
go.
World War II.
That's about
There
it.
were-
Was
and there
World War
was a
II.
World War
There
II.
was a World War II.
There are
They built a
bridges.
bridge.
I can prove it.
There
I
were
have
bridges.
And
artifacts.
it was
World
blown
War
up
II.
at some point. Yes.
And there were bridges blown up.
So, yeah, that's about as
it
loose as you got.
Boom.
Actually, in
History.
reality, the bridge was just barely damaged.
Yeah.
At least in the novel.
Spoiler.
So the movie.
I think it was damaged at all in reality.
Hey guys, let's get into
No,
the history
it was.
after the synopsis.
Okay, go ahead.
So,
Well, Garrick's
So,
really boring me, just like the
so
movie.
the of course, Alec Guinness is a by the book British colonel.
Mm-hmm.
Carries around with him apparently the Geneva.
Carries around with him a
They
hidden
all
copy
did.
of
All the
Geneva
officers had
Convention.
it back
Yeah.
then.
Yeah,
But
so
it was-
And quote it to the
They
Japanese.
passed it around like Playboy.
Well, now this movie's getting interesting.
Yeah.
Dude, he took it to the latrine, if you know what I mean.
no, he wrapped it in a Playboy like,
He's like,
jacket, but it was really the
oh,
little.
only have to state
state
name,
name, rank, and serial number.
It's like-
It's the only thing that got him through the heat box.
Inside was a
The
copy
oven.
of Ooh La La.
I love how that's all Back to the Future 2 tonight.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. So he quotes the rules like officers can't work.
Yep.
Kidding me?
You can't do manual
Manual
labor.
labor. They can
So
direct
the,
manual
Ja-
labor, but
The
they can't.
Japanese general or whatever Colonel Saito is like, oh well, to the box with you,
To the oven.
because Bushido and stuff.
Well, before that, he was going to shoot them all,
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, yeah.
but it doesn't matter.
That would have been more realistic.
I would have
but go
enjoyed
ahead.
the movie if they'd done that.
Yeah. So eventually the pressure builds, and Saito has to get this bridge completed by May 15th
Otherwise, got to
Yeah.
kill
May
himself.
12th.
May 12th.
or May 12th. Sorry. Yeah. And
It
work
is so important.
So all the British and American, I guess Australian. I wonder
Yeah,
if
there were
Australian.
Aussies. Well, no, I think there were Aussies, but they had all died except for the one that was grave digging with Shears.
Oh yeah, yeah.
He was the only one that had survived.
Yeah. So they were kind of lollygagging, not building the bridge.
Actually,
As-
I think
as
they were
they were
sabotaging.
actively sabotaging at that point.
Oh yeah, they were.
Oh
there'd
my
be points
gosh.
where the parts of the bridge would just fall over because they were just
Like
not
daily.
there.
And then they would just swim
Yeah.
around and laugh and splash each other and squeal like girls.
It was very
I felt it was
homoerotic.
very Top Gun.
which is hilarious. Yeah,
Let's
so-
go play volleyball.
So eventually, Colonel Saito is like, "Okay, Alec Guinness, you need to get this shit under
Okay, Alec. Okay, Obi-Wan.
Obi-Wan, get your shit together."
Hello there.
So Obi-Wan's like a very old school British. He's like a lifer in the British Army.
But what he's like,
He's a sad, sad man.
no, he's like, it's the
He
British.
admits he's a sad man.
He's got an understanding of the men that most leaders wouldn't have, and it is basically the Britishest of Britishness.
Yes.
Yeah,
Like it's not.
It's
The
super British.
stick is so far up the butt that it's actually really deep in understanding. Like he's got like a really good.
he's almost like old school British, where he came from like some aristocracy or something.
Exactly.
These people are all just like the mob, the masses.
Yeah.
So in order to get under, he needs to enforce discipline on these people, and I guess it makes sense in a way that he enforces discipline on them by making them build the bridge. So
Yeah.
they don't.
Well,
Because
he
basically-
even said that if they don't have work to do, we would make up work, because if they don't have work to do, then discipline is lost.
Basically, he's trying to keep the morale up and keep the men. He cares about the men.
Right. Well, what happens is, and I want to emphasize while we're talking about the story, the reason why Saito lets him out of the oven, which is just a box that cooks him in the sun for days and days and days, is that he knows that if he doesn't complete the project on time, he'll have to commit harakiri.
He has to ceremonially kill himself.
Right. And because they've already made one dude do that. And they indicated in the film by it happens off screen, and one of the Americans looks at the other guy and does the hand motion of like a knife in the gut, right?
Yeah.
So
and
that's
the
how
Rosencrantz and Gilded.
Oh man! And then they have a song later. But
he's like, "Oh, my legs hurt." Wink, wink, wink. You know what I'm saying? Wink, wink.
Yeah, wink, wink. You have a nervous tick, sir? Hello there. But by the way, Alec Guinness ends every line he says with "hello there." But
it's awesome.
So what he does was basically, even though Alec Guinness is, Colonel whatever the heck, Nicholson is like dying inside his body. The medic's telling him you're not going to survive. When he gets brought out, he still sits down and runs the conversation, because it gets to the point where Saito, who has been this like hard-nosed, unyielding, murder everybody if possible camp commander for so long, is in a position where he has to commit suicide, and it gets to the point where there's literally like boom, like snap of fingers. Nicholson knows, I have the upper hand now. Like literally, it's like boom, turns like that.
And the Japanese guy knows it because he's like weeping in his chamber.
Yeah, he's like, actually, that was one of the more powerful scenes in the movie. Yeah,
because he basically looks Nicholson's like, we can command these men better than you can. We know how to do what you need to do better than you do.
At the planning table, and he's like, "Why don't you bring us tea? Why don't you bring us meal?"
Oh man, the way he pushes the envelope is great.
Yeah,
I will say, when he comes out of the box, that makeup for the movie, like that was impressive.
Looked disgusting.
Actually,
dead.
I read a little thing on that.
Okay,
he based that on his son who had polio or something.
Really?
Yes, and he had observed him and how he had walked during his rehabilitation and things like that, and based it on that. I thought that was very interesting.
And that'll hit an Oscar.
Yeah,
it did.
I was gonna say, and actually, he Alec Guinness commented that he feels like that movie was the pinnacle of his performance as an actor.
Oh my gosh. You guys can crap all you want. I'm in love with this movie. Please go on.
Yeah. I'm with you. This is one of my favorite World War II movies.
Absolutely. Hands down. Hands down. You can take your Private Ryan.
Yes. Screw Band of Brothers.
Ram it right. Well, that's not
a movie.
That's not a movie.
It is a movie.
Therefore, it is not.
It's a movie like this one's a movie where it's like 30 different movies into one.
He's got us there.
All right, go ahead, Garrick.
Yeah, so one of the Americans ends up escaping. Maybe gets shot. I don't know.
Shears.
He gets picked up. Shears, who's played by William Holden.
Who got a hell of a monetary deal to be in this film.
Yeah, he got lots of money.
Like 15 points on the back end.
And it was obvious he didn't want to be there.
Oh.
Well, he escapes, and then he gets nursed back to health on an island. I can't remember.
He was phoning it in.
Yeah. No, I thought he was all right.
This is how he's like 7 Oscars.
He gets rescued by the British.
Is great about giving Oscars to people who really deserve them.
Yeah, he gets rescued by the British, and this is probably one of the funniest parts in the movie. Which there's not many funny parts in the movie.
No, it's not. It's not a comedy by any stretch.
This is why I was confused. I'm like, I didn't know. Is this supposed to be a comedy? Is it not?
No, at the beginning, I was confused. Like he was really like a enlisted man, but he was pretending to be
like the USS Hunter or something like that.
Yeah, so he's like, no, I was a commander. He would tell the Japanese he was a commander, so he didn't have to do any work.
Yeah, he swam ashore when the ship went down with a commander who died, so he just swapped uniforms because he's like, this way I won't have to work.
Which didn't pay off.
He was wrong.
Yeah.
Which is great because he gets captured by the only people who would make him work.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, oh man,
didn't work out.
So they end up he ends up falling in with a British like special ops unit, I guess.
It's funny because Howie's right.
So
it's like a different movie.
I was gonna say at this point, they have two different plots going on. Right.
This is the same thing I'd crucify Scorsese for, but for some reason I am all in on this.
This is why I feel the same way about it.
No, I was loving every minute of it.
No, it's terrible.
Because he goes to he's like on the island. They're like, hey, can you come up with another spot of tea? And we're gonna go do a thing, and we would like to get you for some intelligence. La-di-da-di-da in British. And he shows up, and there's like these just dudes in the bushes walking around like ambushing guys with rubber knives, like training to kill people and stuff. But it's all but it's not like you picture like special ops school, dark and grueling. It's literally like hup, 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 happy, hup, 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 kill, happy,
yeah,
hup, hup,
I'm
hup.
like, I would not want these guys defending my country.
It's like a Goofy short where he's doing the exercise equipment. Like flipping over.
Is this supposed to be a comedy? I don't know.
The guy just looks at him and tackles him and whoops. Sorry about the knife to your throat.
So I'm wondering if William Holden had a thing in his contract where he has to make out with at least one lady per movie.
It's funny that you should
that lady
ask.
had no...
I have an answer to you. I have an answer for that exactly. The script, which went through several iterations, was finally completed, but the head of Columbia Pictures went, there ain't no romantic love interest. And then he took the cigar out of his mouth and licked his jowls and put it back in and went, put in a lady with great big games and hooties.
No,
because for no reason at all, that's
exactly right. Because that's what it feels like the whole time.
That was literally inserted from the top suit.
She was just there to make
terrible.
Out, prance
she
around
was
in her
good looking,
like
but that was
1950s
terrible movie.
Or I guess 1940s.
Yeah, it was
zero
to
do
do with the
later
plot.
To be whistled at, and that's her whole role.
That's
zero to do with the plot.
Honestly,
and I wonder how much that entire scene was a result of them having to figure out how to get the romantic thing in with that. And then you got stuff later on too.
You know what? Maybe all that
Siamese
behind the
ladies.
scenes stuff happened, but actually, I think it added to the character.
It ultimately, I didn't mind it
because he was a guy. He's just like, I'm going home. I'm out of here. I'm in this. I'm in sick. I'm sick and blah blah blah. And I'm shipping out in 3 days, and then he gets dragged right back into the shit he doesn't. He goes right back to where he came from.
But honest to God, it sounds like I'm making a joke with the character, but no, it was literally the head of Columbia Pictures was like, it needs a love interest. I can't. No, I can't fund this.
I don't doubt it. Yeah, so
that's real, guys. It was real, guys.
I understand what Mike's saying. It just made it that much worse for him to have to go back.
Yeah,
yeah.
He was in paradise, and then the British, I want to say like the SAS, I don't know what to call them, but British Special Forces were like, no, actually, we
don't call us commandos, but we're going to call ourselves commandos.
Yeah, we don't like to use the C word around here. It's like, wait a minute, I thought you were British. That's a joke.
I love that when
they do call themselves a commando.
I love that when they brought him in and talked to him,
they're just
like doing it under the guise of, hey, we're trying to convince you to come back with us.
We'd like you to come back. We know it's really hard.
And then when he's like, screw you, he's like, well,
and then he comes clean. He comes clean. I'm not a commander. I'm an enlisted dude. They're going to court-martial me. We'll get the medical discharge or something. It's going to be, they're not going to let me do this. He's like,
dude, we know.
Funny you should mention that.
We knew the whole time.
He pulls out his service record, shows him his picture. He's like, oh, we've known about this. Oh, look, quite a bit of doing.
They were more than happy. They were more than happy to give you to us.
Even though it's a completely different temperature of the rest of the film, I love this guy.
Wouldn't you know
He's
your
just trying
Navy
to get
said,
out of it.
We can have you, so you're staying whether you like it or not.
They don't really know what to do with you. I mean, they can't decorate you with a Navy Cross if you were impersonating an officer, so you belong to us now.
He's the guy I related to most. I could see myself doing all that.
But he was just giving it okay, they've known for a week that he's lying about being an officer. He's getting all the officer privileges at the hospital, and they're fine with it because they just really want him to go back into the jungle with them.
And guess what? For no reason whatsoever.
No, there was a reason.
That meant absolutely nothing.
He kicked the radio.
Oh, he knows. Yeah. Oh, he knows the way back. Oh, but that doesn't matter because they can't go that way.
Yeah.
He mentioned
that. Oh my word! This movie sucks.
that was part of his complaint about going. He's like, oh, now I can't go this way. What am I doing?
Remind me why I'm here again. I'm the American.
So just to clarify, he's put on a small team of what? 3, 4.
Well, it was 4.
Was 4.
It quickly became 3
yeah.
when a dude impaled himself on a tree. Palm tree.
I'm like, oh, he's in a. Oh, he's dead now because a tree.
He was the one who was good.
Yeah,
he's got ice water in his veins. I believe was a direct.
I'm not worried about him.
Yeah,
I'm worried about this young guy that's going to survive.
No, he wasn't worried about him either. He was worried about the special forces guy. Because I don't understand him. I don't get the guy. And then the colonel dude was like, well, he's got experience.
Well, he wasn't really worried about him at all. He's just trying to get out of it.
All right, so you've got Alec Guinness having his guys build this bridge.
Well, no, they started. Alec Guinness finally says, all right, we're going to build a good bridge. And they're like, why? We're building a crappy bridge. It keeps falling apart. It's awesome. And they're like, no, the men need to take pride in that one.
Around naked.
Hello there. Yeah, like they're just swimming and slapping each other on the behinds.
I love that first day he's in charge and they're all diving off the bridge.
Yeah,
and
they're
just
like
playing
swimming
in the
around.
water.
He's like, well, the first thing we've got to do is give these men a good work ethic. And they're like, you don't really want us to do a good bridge, do you? And then he just looks him right in the eye. He leans forward. He glares and he goes, hello there. And they're like, whoa.
Wow.
Whoa, dude.
Yes, Master Obi-Wan.
So, yeah, the bridge is suddenly mostly built because we spend a good 45 minutes away from the prison camp and bridge.
Dialogue whatsoever.
Okay, no, but I was only like 38 of the 45 minutes with no dialogue whatsoever. We're just walking through the jungle.
So to get this moving, we've got Alec Guinness building a bridge, and we've got
Special
William
Forces
Holden
team and William Holden,
and they're coming to blow up the bridge that they're building.
So the dramatic tension building is, wait a minute, all the Brits are suddenly taking a lot of pride in their work.
Yes.
The Japanese are feeding them well because they're working well and they're realizing they need to keep them strong.
And they actually get it done on time.
They're actually getting it done on time. And they put up a sign that, because Alec Guinness is like, everyone for 600 years is going to remember that this bridge was built by British soldiers.
Definitely drunk at the time.
He was totally drunk at the time. But he's like, it's all about taking pride in your work, blah, blah, blah. Right. Meanwhile, the American dude is bringing back a team to just blow that crap right up.
The same, yeah.
Mm-hmm. So the whole time I'm watching this movie for the second time, realizing I'd never seen the ending.
Oh, wow.
I didn't realize it until I was watching the movie. I'm like, well, I really don't know how it's going to end. Do the Americans win the war? I don't know.
Yeah.
It's World War II. Wow. Everybody except a couple countries won the war.
So we get to the end of the movie. The bridge is built. They're celebrating. And the commando team comes in. They set their charges.
They set their charges
the night before, right before the train is supposed to go over the bridge.
They're using plastic explosives, completely waterproof.
But for some reason, inexplicably, the river goes down by what, 20,000 feet? I don't know. Okay,
like 4 feet, maybe.
Oh, it's more than 4 feet.
All right,
so the river's pretty much gone.
The dramatic ending, right? So we get there. They get the charges set. They're waiting for the train to come over the bridge. Of course, Nicholson and his men. Well, all the men have marched on to the new camp. Okay, so they're gone, but Nicholson is staying there. They're having a ceremony to open the bridge.
He's like, where do they get a load of this bridge?
And of course, none of the Japanese see anything wrong.
Right.
But Nicholson, he being as meticulous as he is, he's walking down the tracks. He sees
the river has gone down.
The water went down dramatically, and Obi-Wan went, goodbye there. But then he saw a bunch of deck cord down there, and he goes, hello there.
He's like, something's going on.
Right. Yeah.
Wait a minute.
And he's like, wait, what's going on? He goes over to Saito and he goes, wait, we need to check this out before the train comes.
I believe his exact words was, something's fucky.
Okay, so they go down, they start following the wire, and they're going right to the guy that has the charge.
The junior kid who's like swam out because he was the best swimmer in his class. He's over there laying in the dirt in full view.
He's right behind a rock.
Yeah, there's a rock that he's not utilizing well.
It's a very big rock.
So of course
he's got the plunger.
Of course, you hear the train coming in the background.
Yeah.
And the plunger, and
they're waiting. Their original plan was, wouldn't it be super right, good, cheerio, pip, pip,
as it's going over the bridge,
to get the train with the Japanese VIPs with the bridge,
right?
Unknowingly that there's all these Allied sick forces that are on the train as well.
Here you've got
which is never talked about again.
The train's hooting in the distance.
Yes.
And the dudes and the special forces guys are up on the rock, down on the bank, on the other side of the bank with the plunger to set off the debt. And and everybody's like, just blow it up. And you want to reach into the screen and grab this kid and beat him senseless because he's like, well, there's people walking right toward me. I guess I could just blow the bridge, but I don't know. Train's getting pretty close. 2 for $1 sale. And you just are like dying, and actually really appreciated the intensity of the scene because
it was very intense.
He wants to do the best job. Yeah, everyone else on the team just wants the job done.
He's very green and young.
Blow it and get out of here.
He wanted that to stand as a monument to the work that his men had done.
Well, that's what Nicholson wanted. Nicholson was like, I don't want this. At this point, he's been committed so long, and he's sold himself on the he's drank his own Kool-Aid to the point where he's not thinking clearly. He's like, wait, something's going to happen to the bridge. And he's almost got like a Stockholm syndrome.
Right. No, what happened is like at the end, he's talking to Saito on the end on the bridge, and he's talking about how he's been in the army for all these years.
28 years. It's only been home for 10 months of those years. Oh my word.
He loves India.
He doesn't have any legacy to speak of.
Yeah.
Except so this bridge.
This is his legacy.
Is his legacy.
This Japanese bridge that helps the Japanese army is his legacy. He's sold. Yeah,
because it's going to stand for 300 years, and after he's gone, people are going to, 600.
Yeah.
So people will remember him. And he's like, and at the end when he's like, well, we'll get to it, I guess now, but he's fighting the guy to not blow up the bridge.
So they get down there on the beach. He sees the guy.
He clearly knows that there's charges at the bottom of the bridge. He knows that this is a detonator core, and they're following it up. But again,
he's out of his mind. He's defending his legacy.
Defending the bridge. It never enters his mind that it's his army, his people, that are trying to destroy this Japanese bridge. It's not even as much. It's like, well, some things, blah, 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 blah. He's just like following it and like, come with me. Let's sleuth this out, Blue. And they're going, and he gets out his spiral and he draws a picture. And
so the kid that's gonna do the plunging, they come up to him. Basically, he runs out and kills Saito.
Yeah.
Just pulls out a knife and kills him.
Rather than blow the bridge, he's like, you know what? Odds are, if I run in full view of literally all the armed dudes on that bridge and attack their commanding officer with a knife, no one's going to notice. And he was right. He was right, Mike and Howie.
Yeah.
True. None of them who were all looking that way noticed.
You're right.
They're like, that's like 125 yards.
This is fantastic movie making.
We can't afford glasses in the Japanese army.
Hold your fire.
Yeah. Let's see how this one plays out.
We really don't like our commanding officer. I'm glad you killed him.
That's crap.
He was kind of a dick.
That's crap because he was closer to the commander. He kills him, and then they shoot him. He's dead.
Well, they only shoot him after Obi-Wan yells for help.
He drags him for at least 30 minutes.
There was a good 30 seconds, which seemed like minutes to Howie. But he stabs him, is in the water, and then Obi-Wan's grabbing him, or almost jumping on him, grabbing him.
He's on top of him.
Before he yells for help.
At this point,
and the word help, English word for help, is the signal to Japanese infantry to shoot.
Anyway, all hell breaks out. Holden tries to rush the scene. He's trying to
swim across.
The commando is trying to help.
He looks like what's his name from Gladiator.
He's shooting off mortars.
The commander up on the cliff is sitting there
shooting mortars.
Yeah, and
at his own people.
Shears yells, kill him. And I'm like, how about just blow the bridge? I feel like that should be at the center of everybody's mind right now.
Well, no, he was saying that.
They were, but they didn't yell it.
But he got the knife and he's like,
they didn't yell it. They waited till they yelled, and he's like, kill him. And I'm like, no, just blow the bridge. Let's not worry about this.
But you can't blow the bridge because you have to have a dramatic blowing of the bridge, guys.
There's a point. Right.
So at this point, the kid's dead. Holden's dead. Alec Guinness's character starts coming to his right mind, and he's like,
the nice British guy on the cliff drops a mortar.
Right. And Alec Guinness is wounded. He's actually dying at that point.
Yeah, you don't get that because he stands right up in true British officer form.
Right.
And
there's no blood. Walk again.
There's barely any blood except on rocks.
You can't have a lot of blood.
It's
on
1957, but yes.
Yeah.
But anyway, at that point, he's coming to his right mind. He's like, "Oh God, what am I doing?"
He said, "My God, what have I done?"
Either
that or "My God, it's full of stars." I don't remember. But yeah, he looks down. It dawns on him that he's just stopped a young man who's trying to do the thing
that's in his army.
That's in his army, his people want. And that young man just died because of him.
Yes.
And he realizes that. And this is actually what I like about this movie.
Really? This is what you like about this movie? Oh, my
Yes,
word.
what I like about this, one of many things that I like about this movie is the fact that at the beginning of the movie, you're like, wow, this British officer is stuffy and stubborn. And then you're like, oh, my God, he was right. Oh, my God, look at what he did. Oh, my God, that guy knew what was going on. Oh, my God, he totally forgot what was important.
Right.
Like there's a full...
all of a sudden, he forgot.
No, it was over the course of months.
No, this felt like in the movie to me, I'm like, all of a sudden, he now just forgets what this whole point is because they never explained to you why they were sent there to surrender.
They build up to it, man, because he keeps getting questioned by his men the whole time.
Yeah, and he's having to defend.
You mean the foreshadowing that was insanely obvious?
Go sit over there at a safe distance and watch me. There's a stump, right? Good for the sitting.
Right.
This was
all right. So as Alec Guinness is dying, he falls on the plunger, blows the bridge,
and it seems like he kind of intends to fall on the plunger.
People.
Like it looks like he's
pretty ambiguous.
Yeah, it seems like he gets to the point where he realizes his mistake, and maybe he's trying to get to the plunger, but then he just falls down dead on top.
And
it is called a detonator, but that's okay.
It is a detonator, but it's a plunger style detonator.
Yep.
Detonator.
Not a plunger for a toilet, though. Just I want to make sure people are clear.
He detonates the bridge. The bridge blows. The train is right there.
The bridge because he could have plunged the bridge.
The train falls off.
And Back to the Future 3, they use a plunger.
And then the medic comes down and starts saying, "Madness, madness, madness."
No, it didn't say madness, madness. He goes, madness. You got to say it the right way.
He said Magnus.
Magnus. That dude,
Magnus.
I saw more of that guy's teeth than I've ever seen in my own teeth. That guy, madness.
Okay,
and so they killed a bunch of
Allied forces,
and then you hear Rainbow Connection. It zooms in, and that's where the movie.
You're like, and then the movie ends with this happy music, and you're like,
actually, the fact that it starts playing the march of that song. But it's a march version,
right?
And the movie does this a couple times where the music is overly upbeat and triumphant sounding. Now, this is the 50s again. Yeah. You know,
we are on the cusp.
Anybody who's listened to the score of the 10 Commandments is like, wow, they really went for 6 there, didn't they? Right. But in this case, I felt like it was at the end of the movie. I felt like it was very much on purpose because what had just happened was a victory.
Yes.
But but it's a tragedy.
Yes.
But at the same time, a victory. And I almost wondered if the music was, and it's a little ahead of its time if it is, but if it was almost supposed to make you go, well, I don't feel great about this. You know,
that's
if it was
war, man.
Yeah,
war is hell.
Like it was almost like a war is hell kind of thing where it's like playing Fallout. You know, war never changes. It's like playing Fallout and listening to all the happy music from the 40s. You know what I mean? It's like it doesn't fit. Everything's wrong. And that's what I feel like that song paid off for at the end when the helicopter shot's pulling out and you're hearing this happy, triumphant music when even though it was a army victory or like a military victory, right. It was a personal disaster.
Yes.
Which I feel like is pretty advanced for the 50s.
Right, and I was going to say that's pretty deep, and that's what I was going to say. That's where I was going. I mean, in 1957, we're on the cusp of the experimental 60s, and where we get a lot more of these kind of movies that are a lot more complex, and
it was a politically interesting time. As a matter of fact, the McCarthy trials were going on.
Yeah, actually, you want to go there?
Yeah,
I mean, the writers of the movie
won 7 Oscars. One of which was Best Adapted Screenplay, which they awarded
to the author of the book.
Not present, non-English speaking author of the novel that was in French. Because the dudes what adapted the screenplay refused to testify before the communist trials and therefore were excluded from the Academy Awards.
They were blacklisted in Hollywood, and they were in Britain. They had basically were exiled to Britain,
and then they were posthumously given the Oscar in 1980 freaking 5.
Yeah,
that's insane.
That is nuts.
That was deserved.
This movie won a ton of Oscars.
Commie bastard.
If they would have written a better movie, I would have been all right with it. So.
Look, obviously, this movie isn't for everybody. Obviously,
I feel like anybody who respects history and has a love for those who
sacrificed. Things that are loosely based on.
I was going to say, be careful. This is fiction.
This is so fiction. Wait. This is so fiction. It's not even funny.
There was a bridge. There were soldiers.
World War II.
There was World War II happened.
Yes,
and the Americans
people exist.
I was going to say the bridge does exist. There were POWs that worked on the bridge,
and there was a boom that happened somewhat near the bridge.
Alec Guinness was a real person.
So the French guy who wrote this
did say hello there.
He was a prisoner of war during World War II. He was,
yeah,
but not where the bridge was or any of that happened.
No, it was. I thought it was a compelling story.
There were parts of this movie I loved. But altogether, I'm like, I felt like I was thrashed back and forth so much that I'm like, this is terrible.
And I'm usually super sensitive to that, but because the pacing wasn't even, it's not like Empire where you've got 3 stories and you're kind of getting similar time with all 3 stories or anything. It's like, suddenly, here's 20 minutes of another story. Here's 30 seconds of the first one. Now we're back to 40 minutes of the other.
Yeah, and then randomly we're like, okay, here's 5-10 minutes of nothing.
Right.
See, this is this is the kind of film that I consider to be experimental / like an art film because I mean there's more experimental cinematography.
The cinematography to me, I kept forgetting this movie took place in the 50s. The music,
it was beautiful.
That it was done in the 50s.
Technicolor was beautiful.
Was gorgeous. It seemed much more like late
shots,
60s, early 70s.
It did. I felt like it was ahead of its time.
Yeah.
When I saw 1957 on it, I was like, no way.
The music
I felt like it was
only
60s
giveaway.
all the way.
The music's the only giveaway,
right?
Because it's so marchy.
Yep,
won an Oscar for best cinematography.
It was nominated for a Grammy for the soundtrack.
It was
best film editing.
It was a good looking movie.
To me, it's one of those films, and this is my opinion on the whole thing. This is a film that I probably won't go back and watch.
I know I won't go back and watch it.
I will.
But I can appreciate it.
I want
3 hours long.
I appreciate it for what it is. I mean, I'm glad that I saw it. I'm glad that I experienced it.
So you feel about this movie the way I feel about Schindler's List.
Okay, yeah, sure. That seems fair.
I saw Schindler's List and I was like, I'm glad that I saw it. I'll never need to watch it again.
That's kind of how many people I feel about Saving Private Ryan.
I was actually
I have to watch Schindler's List again.
Steven Spielberg in World War II. That's how I feel about everything he does. Because every time I see, I actually wouldn't say this about Schindler's List because I just don't know. But with Saving Private Ryan, I'm like, all right, everything is just meat fisted and overstated.
Would you say that about Band of Brothers?
No, because he didn't direct.
Okay,
he was a producer.
He produced,
and Tom Hanks also produced.
He brought apples and bananas.
That's right.
Brought the produce.
I have to wonder too. I didn't find anything on this, but I was struck by this movie. It felt like one of the things that I appreciated about it was that it felt like maybe the first like war movie in the modern era where war movies were treated more seriously.
But it's funny, but think about that. This is only 10 years later.
I know. I agree.
That blows me away. Like all the buildings you're seeing is like, is that really period appropriate? Oh wait, it's still that period.
But what did we have prior to that? Prior to that, we had the John Wayne movies. And,
I thought I thought you were talking about like Superman,
the old black and white World War II movies.
The Superman when he comes flying through Lucy's kitchen window.
I'm with you now.
Do you never watch World War II movies on Sundays when you were a kid?
Man.
Yeah, dude,
no, man. I'm talking about the old.
I don't watch that crap.
The old black and white stuff, man, which was just more.
My parents were never into that.
It was more patriotic, and it was more. There was no blood.
I feel like Mike's really pissed off that I hadn't watched.
It's more like the.
I'm trying to explain it for people that never experienced that. I did. I'm saying that it feels like a war movie that's a little more serious.
Like Augie, what's his name?
Audie Murphy.
Audie Murphy. Thank you, Garrick. It's like the Audie Murphy, like. Hollywood latched on to this dude with a story and aggrandized it so much that he even became an actor in a couple other movies, even though he was a terrible actor, because he was a war hero that they could prop up and make this.
Right.
It was like a rallying point more than any attempt at telling a compelling story.
Yeah. To your point, like William Holden, Alec Guinness, and Jack Hawkins, who played the major of the special ops, they were all in World War II.
Yeah.
as soldiers at some point.
Yep. Alec Guinness was almost not all in this movie.
Yeah,
he was not the first choice. And when he showed up on set in Ceylon the first day, or like gets out of the plane, the director walks up to him and goes, "Hey, you know, I like that other guy better. All right, Gunn's over there."
Alec Guinness like, God damn.
Guinness is like, turn around, looks at the plane, and just like, "Hello there."
I was gonna say hello there, but screw you.
Yeah, Alec Guinness said he was almost ready to leave the first day.
Not hello there.
The director later claimed that was never the case and that he wanted Alec Guinness all along, you know, because Alec Guinness got Best Actor. But literally everyone involved agrees that he was whining and moaning about having to use Alec Guinness the whole time because Alec Guinness at the time was known more for his comedies. He was thought of as a comedic actor.
I've never known that about him.
Now we all have some homework to do because I was also like,
yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Remember though, comedy in the 1950s was, and British comedy at that, was more just like, you know, fancy a shag, oh ho hum, you know. That was a joke and everybody laughed.
My only other experience with
good show.
Alec Guinness in that period was Brother, Sun, Sister Moon. Have you ever seen that movie?
I haven't. I don't remember a damn thing about it.
What?
It was basically the story of St. Francis, right? Yeah. And Alec Guinness played the Pope.
Mm-hmm.
And
Poped it up good. That was like right up the butt.
That was like super hippie crap. I mean, it was basically St. Francis dancing around naked with flowers and crap.
And that's why Mike likes it, because his requirement for movies is that someone's naked the whole time.
Naked Obi-Wan?
Especially male nudity. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Get you right where get you right in the sweet spot.
I tell you what.
Yep.
Yeah. So should we go on and judge this? Is it better than Star Wars?
We need to.
By far, no.
AFI criteria.
This doesn't even belong on the list.
Feature length, narrative format, at least 60 minutes long.
Yep.
So
check
I guess it gets three points for that.
Yeah,
freaking long.
Extra points for length.
Now number 2 is this American film. Now this one actually got a special, I guess.
It's considered both a British and American film.
It was produced by Columbia Pictures. That's pretty much all you need. It doesn't matter if there's foreign people working on the film. If it's Columbia Pictures, it's American film.
The British consider it their own.
I'm sure they do. Quite.
But it was distributed by American Studios, so technically it counts, I guess. Number 3, critical recognition. So formal accommodation in print. So got a lot of critical.
7 Oscars.
More so than Star Wars? 7 star. Oh, that's
okay. So
next one is major award winning.
Oh, okay, yeah. So the critics liked it.
Critics loved it.
What's the Rotten Tomato score in Bridge on the River Kwai? Mike, I'm telling you.
Actually, it's pretty high.
I'm gonna. What do you know? What it is?
No, I don't off the top of my head. But we can. If somebody keeps talking, we'll look it up.
So this one time, I was out shopping for candy. I was in the bulk candy section, and
95%.
Thank God.
That's 95%. Rotten Tomatoes critic score, 93% audience.
Pretty dang high. And
87 Metacritic and 8.1 IMDb.
Also very close scores. When you get the critic score and the audience score that are very close, to me, that tends to mean more than when there's a big difference between the two.
Yeah. It's actually 2% higher on the critic score than A New Hope is. So it's technically...
What about on the audience score?
Audience score
Metacritic is 90 and 8.6 on
lower
IMDb, so it's...
A New Hope.
We're all a bunch of young children with short attention spans.
I think they maybe call that a tie.
All right, yeah. I feel like it's right in the same ballpark, even
major award winner. So like you were saying, it won a ton of Oscars.
Yeah, Golden Globes too.
Golden Globes, British Academy Film Award.
Yeah, the British We Made This Movie We Swear
a
Awards.
Grammy.
Yeah. Yeah,
so
seriously.
It won a ton of awards.
It's got Star Wars handily beaten in that regard.
Star Wars won 52 awards.
Yeah, but one of them, like 7 of them.
6 Oscars.
6 Oscars. That's not 7.
6.
I'm just telling you.
It's not 7.
I'm going to go back.
How many Golden Globes?
Yeah, how many?
Yeah, how many Golden Globes, Howie?
Bridge of the River Kwai only won 23 awards compared to 57.
Okay, all right.
Well, there were more.
Bridge over the River Kwai didn't qualify for Sci-Fi Weekly's Movie of the Year.
All right,
I'm just telling you.
So look, I mean, if we're gonna make a subjective call here, I mean, it's hard to compare this movie to Star Wars.
Oh, it's terrible.
He's nailing it pretty hard though. Over there.
How about number 5 on the criteria? Popularity over time.
Star Wars by hand.
Yeah,
it's going to be hard for
shot.
anybody to compete in that.
Yeah, that's true. Historical significance.
I would say it's more significant than Star Wars.
No, I don't know.
Because it's fiction.
No,
Star Wars is too, Howie.
No, it's not.
They have a long time ago, far away. Just say it's real, guys.
I think it had maybe a bigger historical impact, but it has not outlived historical significance wise.
No.
What?
I don't know. It makes sense. It's more historically relevant despite being a predominantly fictional film, but it has not had as much of an impact.
Its impact, yeah.
I don't know. We have to wait like almost like 17 more years to really be sure about that. Because then we can compare it to Star Wars now.
Do we?
That's true.
Do we really?
But it also has to have several Bridge on the River Kwai sequels and prequels.
And TV shows. And cartoons. Comics.
Yep.
Novels,
then we'll know.
The Mandalorian on the River Kwai.
Ooh,
I'd watch that.
Watch the hell out of that.
You'd probably just fire
fire a wrist rocket and go, done here. And then fly away.
It'd be like, that's the only...
Time to get
It'd be 3 hours long, and that's the only words in the whole movie.
Yes.
What it would be.
It's an art film, huh?
Mm-hmm. I'm all in.
Well,
the seventh and last criteria, cultural impact. No. Star Wars, I think.
Okay. At the time...
I'm trying to think of the time.
At the time... exposing people to the horrors of the prisoners, even though this movie really doesn't go that far.
No,
horrors of it.
That's one of the things where it lacks, I think, pretty heavily.
But that's something that it's viable that people were much more ignorant of that type of stuff at the time. So it might have opened the door for people to expand their minds into something that was very relevant, especially given the fact that there were a lot of people that had come back from the war with, PTSD, people who were POWs and stuff like that. So I could see it where it might have struck a much more personal chord. Imagine all the World War II veterans that saw that movie.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
And I feel
especially those in the Pacific.
Yeah. And I feel like so at the time, or imagine the dudes that were in the Pacific talking to the dudes who were in Europe after they saw the movie and they're having a drink together. You know what I mean? I feel like there's a lot of depth that was probably explored with people at the time. And Star Wars is super fun and has a bigger cultural impact long term. But I feel like the impact of the importance of this film at the time may have been bigger.
Yeah, but at the time is the key word there.
Yeah.
I mean, if we're talking over time, I mean, it's no comparison.
Over time, it's not comparable, but I want to give it its due.
Yeah, we're trying to give it a fair shot, right? Try to be like.
At the end of the day, it's not as good as Star Wars.
Yeah, so let's go around the table. So Mike, not as good as Star Wars.
No,
Corey,
it is very close in quality to Star Wars, but overall, it is not as good to me. And by the criteria as Star Wars.
So Howie thinks it's way better than Star Wars.
Howie loves it. Never gonna watch Star Wars.
I'm actually very disappointed.
He's wearing a Bridge on the River Kwai t-shirt under his hoodie.
I am, guys. I've got a hat and everything for it.
Yeah. Bring it back. Do a reboot. Come on, Netflix.
It's an all green hat.
Hey, maybe that's what Lord and Miller are doing for Netflix.
That's what it is.
They're doing a whole Bridge on the River Kwai cinematic universe.
It's a trilogy. It's 3 45-minute movies. Actually, that's not long enough. It'd be 3 50-minute movies. Almost.
Shit.
I'm going to say also it's not as good. And the 1998 rank, which is very quiet, like we discussed, was 13.
When they updated the AFI.
When they updated it in 2007, this one actually fell the most.
Oh,
top 15.
Really?
I wonder why.
I wouldn't have guessed that. Personally.
It dropped 23 places.
Holy!
Because it's terrible.
Yep, to number 36. So we are correct.
Oh man! And remind us where is Star Wars on the revised list?
13.
13.
Yeah, so
we're up to.
So everything beyond this point is better than Star Wars, apparently.
Maybe.
Well, it doesn't know. Maybe something else injected itself.
Oh,
other things fell off.
That's true.
There are things that injected themselves.
Yeah.
We can choose to do those later if we want.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. But in the meantime, once again, it is not better than Star Wars.
And this podcast is just about as long as that movie has been.
You're welcome. You're welcome, America.
We're about 30 minutes shy.
Responsible for this movie, America. One World War II, America.
Oh, my word.
I love being ironically overly pro-America. It's wonderful.
All right.
I love my country so much.
So I've got to ask a question then.
What?
We've said our piece on this movie.
What?
We are moving on. Okay,
we hope you enjoyed this special edition of Fly Casual. If you haven't already, please subscribe and rate us at iTunes, Stitcher, and all your favorite podcast locations. It is important that you rate us so that we can reach more and more people. As always, be sure to check out the show notes at betterkind.com. There are also many, many ways to join in on the conversation. Follow us on Twitter at FlyCasual1138. Like us on Facebook, facebook.com/FlyCasualPodcast. We are also now on YouTube, so please take a moment right now to subscribe and ding the bell for updates. We are also now on Discord as well. Lots of opportunities to chime in. Reach out and say hi. Talk to you soon.